My name is Donald Ansardi. I was born in New Orleans in 1936, October 22nd, 1936. And I just made 79 years old on October 22nd. My father's name was Ansardi, and my mother's name was Gladys Ansardi. They both were born and raised in Plaquemine Parish on the east bank of the river. And they grew up in what they call Point Lahash and Davant. My father grew up in Davant. My mother grew up in Point Lahash. And they resided in Davant all their life. Never did leave. He was he was a trapper, a muskrat trapper, and then he worked for Delacroix Corporation. He was a land manager, and well, he started as a patrolman, patrolling the property for Mr. Malera. It was in the 20s, like 27. He was around for the Trappers' War.
Which was in when?
1926. And I remember he was emancipated to become a legal adult. I had one brother. His name was Jerry Ansardi. He died, passed away when he was 31 from liver cancer. And he was 5 years younger than me. He died, when he passed away, he was 31 years old. He had some kind of little nervous condition when he was young, and his doctor treated him with arsenic. And in them days, they didn't have no idea how bad arsenic was on your liver. And they gave him so many drops, they increased the drops every day. And then there was arsenic was a big cause of liver cancer, and that's what killed him. My grandfather's name was Adam Ansardi. My grandmother's name was Angie Lingoni. She was Italian, and they were married, and they lived in Davant. But they did move to Ostrika for a long time. They lived in Ostrika. My father was born in Ostrika. Ostrika was a big fishing town, boom town, fishing factories, and everybody was there fishing and making a living. Yeah, redfish, speckled trout, drumfish, any kind of saltwater fish.
That was all legal.
That was legal, yeah. That was the thing. So everybody, plenty of people went to Ostrika, well, to make a living. Ostrika is right there by the Ostrika Locks.
Okay.
And you cross the river. It's almost across from Empire. East side, you couldn't get to it by cars, just by boat. It was a lot different than now, but it's still it's narrow. But it's still a strip of land right on the river almost. It's right on the river bank, like. You had to get to it by boat. That was it. Oh yeah, they stood the year round. Then my grandfather, he lived in Delacroix Island for a while. Ran a bar for Mr. Manuel Malera and cut hair. And then when the fur became popular, muskrat trapping, well, they were out there. They built camps and they were trapping. Then later on, he started buying fur. Mr. Malera had a fur house, and he bought fur for Mr. Malera's fur house. He was a fur buyer. My great grandfather, came here from Sardinia. That's an island close to Sicily or Italy. 5 brothers came here, and they resided in Devon. And they all, my great-grandfather married my great-grandmother. She was from Delaware Island. She came from Spain. My grandfather was one of 8 kids. And he was a market hunter and a trapper. And he hunted ducks for a living. He was a market hunter. They went out and they would take orders for so many pairs of ducks. If somebody would contact them, somebody would order so many ducks, and I don't know if they had a middleman, I don't know how it went. But they would go out, if they had an order for like 50 pair of mallets, him and my cousin, Sebastian Ansardi, they were market hunters. They hunted partners. And they'd go out and take an order. That's all they would shoot, not with mallets. If they wanted pintails, they would shoot pintails. They never had many grid ducks or things like that. It was mostly mallets, pintails, teal, and spoonbills. But they wouldn't shoot no teals or anything like that. They'd shoot them maybe to eat. But they wouldn't even think about buying that. It would be strictly mallets and pintails. That's what they shot. Very plentiful. They never had no problem. They'd go out, take orders, and kill them. So my dad, he used to go pick them up with a horse and a slide. He'd go pick the ducks up when they came in at the back levee canal. He'd load the ducks and they had them in sacks, and they'd put them on a sled and come in. But they'd paddle pirogues for miles to go hunting. And my grandfather made pirogues. He made his own pirogues. And when it first started with the duck hunting and market hunting, and it was first whoever got to the pond first, that was it. He hunted it. That was the way it was. There wasn't no leases or anything like that. If whoever got there first got it. So they had a guy by the name of Michel LaFrance. He was a carver from Devon. He was a hunter. So they had this real hot duck pond with had a lot of ducks. So old man Michel, they left like that evening before and paddled and went. They used to have like a trenasse, like it wasn't a trenasse. They would drag the pirogues to the ponds. They never had much openings to get to the ponds. You had to drag to them. It's all closed ponds. And they went out. Michel LaFrance and them went out that evening, and they had a lecture. And they said, well, we go. Adam's at the polls. That's my grandfather. He's at the polls tonight. There's no way we got him. We're gonna beat him to this good pond. So they slept in their pirogues in the drag where you drag to go to the pond. They slept right there. They said, we know Adam ain't gonna make it here. We got him. So after the polls closed and everything, my grandfather packed up, got these pirogues, and paddled out there, and here they were sleeping in the trenasse. He drug around them with the pirogue quiet and went into the pond. So he got in the pond, he went to sleep in the blind, in the pirogue. That's how they did. They'd get that rice straw and put in the pirogue, they had it in sacks, put it out and cover with a quilt and sleep in the pirogue. So the two guys, Michel LaFrance and his partner, they went out, they got ready. They drug into the pond. When they got to the pond, my grandpa was awake. He seen them. So he jumped up, he said, man, I overslept. I've been, Adam Ansardi, I'm gonna whip your ass. What you pull on us. It was funny. But they couldn't whip him, he was tough. You see you, Adam? I'm gonna whip you. I'm gonna whip your old ass. Or whatever. But my grandpa made out of it. He was there all night. He just went around while he was sleeping. And that's a true story. Grandfather made the pirogues. He made them out of redwood, that one I remember. They did make some out of cypress, but most of them were made with redwood. They were real nice. It was a one-man pirogue, that's it. I know it was about 14 foot. I don't have any more. Lost them all in Hurricane Katrina. I had some. I had the original one that I used. He built it for my dad, and my daddy gave it to me. And I had it in the shed, lost in the hurricane. The way they did it, they went out there and killed the ducks. It was strictly orders. If they didn't get ordered, they didn't go. And the ducks went to the market. Now, how they went to the market, I don't have no knowledge of that. But I know that they had to have somebody that did the ordering, that ordered the ducks and delivered the ducks to the people that ordered them. So I know they went to, some of them went to the market, to the French market and the fresh quarter. All they did was gut the ducks. I would think, I don't know for facts, but I think when they were doing the market on a lot, it wasn't much trapping. It had to be that way because when they started trapping, all the brothers went out there and they built camps and they trapped. They had the camps that they stayed in. They were trapping partners. There was my grandfather, my daddy, some of my uncles, and they all stayed in one big camp out there, and they all trapped partners. And my grandfather was such a hard worker and a tough, hard working. Some of them couldn't hang with him. Some of them quit, they never came back. They said, Adam is not going to kill us. He couldn't cut it with him. That's how hard of work he was. And they had so many rats, and they were skinning rats down in the winter time at night. And my grandfather, he'd take a lantern and go right behind the camps on the hog bayou and go run some traps. He said, and his brothers, look at this, look at Adam, what he's doing. We ain't got enough to take care of now. He's going to get some more. And that was a funny thing. They had a camp, the roof leaked, and one of my grandfather's brothers, his name was Robin, and the roof was leaking right on his bed. He said, well, you gonna wet me? You're not gonna wet me. He put his rain suit on, his slicker suit on, and got in bed with it. He said, now try to wet me. That's how bad the camp was leaking. You know, it was all rough stuff, you know. Yeah, reclaimed lumber and whatever they could get. Tall paper rules. At one time, my grandfather then built oyster grass, what they call Pythian oyster grass. They built a camp out of that. And it didn't leak neither. I don't have no idea how they done it, but they slept on the ground with that rice straw and quilts. But they camped out there, then they had a palmetto camp. They built a camp out of palmettos too. don't know what they did, what their secret was, but they didn't leave. What they did, it's a lost art, and we'll never see it again. Not in our lifetime. That's a forgotten art. Building camps out of palmettos and oyster grass and 5 feet. I went to school when I was 6 years old in Point LaHash. They had a school in Point LaHash. And it went to the 6th grade. It was mostly reading, writing, and arithmetic. That was it. We went to school like most probably from 8 to 3. And I never forget, they had hot lunches. Well, at first, they never had hot lunches. Mama used to fix, I had a little lunch kit with a thermos, a little thermos bottle fit in it, and a couple of sandwiches, a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and a ham or whatever sandwich. And then they start with the school lunches. You get a hot meal, a pint of milk for 10 cents. And that was a big thing. And we never had no sports in the Point LaHash school. Just a little exercise, and we played marbles. We shot marbles at recess, and we shoot marbles. And when the bell would ring for the end of lunchtime, we razoo. Everybody would be fighting and scrambling for the marbles. And then when the weather was bad, they had a basement in the school. We used to play hopscotch. They had a basement on their school with a cement basement, and the school was elevated.
Okay.
And underneath they had the basement. They gave at that school they gave dances at that basement, parties, rallies. They had everything there at that school. After the 6th grade, I went to Breakaway High, and I went to school in Breakaway. They had a school right there in Breakaway, about across from the paper mill stack in Breakaway. I went there 1 year. Then they had built new schools. Leander Perez built new schools all over the parish. Leander Perez built schools for the white people and the black people. Everybody had equal schools, but segregated. And that's where I went to school in Woodlawn, and until I graduated the 12th grade in 1956. I graduated from Woodlawn High School. While I was in high school, I played 6-man football. And I liked football. It was pretty good. I liked it. Mostly to get the girls. It was, when you was a football player, he was pretty popular. So it was strictly 6-man football. And we played in different places, and we used to practice in the evening. And when we'd finish practicing, we had to go out on the road, on the highway, and hitchhike to get home. We never had no transportation to take us back and forth. So I played a few years, and then first thing you know, they abolished 6-man football. So that was the end of my football career. It went to 11-man football, and we never had enough players, so we had to scrap it. So that was it. I think we had about 15 graduates.
Wow.
My wife's name was Merle, and I met her through a double date. She got me a date with this girl, and I was introduced to Merle. She went out she had a date with my friend that I went to school with, by the name of Calvin Fox. So she just went out with him because, you know, just to go out. She never had no liking to him. So when I went out with this young lady that she lined me with this date, I told her I would like to get to know Merle, because I think she's a good looking chick. So she said, I'm gonna take care of that. So we went to this girl's house, or maybe Merle's aunt's house, and so we had some music playing and we started dancing. And this lady told her, she said, Donald, I'm gonna dance with Calvin so you can dance with Merle. So I was dancing with her and everything, and first thing you know, I broke the news to Calvin. I said, look, I like Merle and I think she likes me. So that's it. So he was mad. You ain't nothing but a double crosser. So I said, well, that's the way it goes, buddy. So I start dating Merle, and I really fell for bad. So we went out. We didn't go out long, and I had some friends. They were married. They were young. So I used to go out with Merle, and I would go out with them on, double date, triple dating, and first thing you know, why don't y'all get married? I said, what? Merle said, I don't know, I guess we can get married. So we took off with them, with my friends, went to Mississippi and got married. That day. We was out, it was a weekend, we went out, got the marriage license right there and everything in Mississippi and got married. And been married since 1957. That's 57 or 58 years. It was rough sometimes, but we made it. And she's a good person. She's got to be good to put up with me.
That's right.
The reason why I went to Mississippi, that was you could get a marriage license and get married the same day, in a matter of hours. We were married for 9 months and 2 days, and had our first daughter. Well, after we were married, we had our first girl. It was about 9 months, a week after we were married. But I can tell you this, it was no hanky-panky. My wife was she was a good girl. And our first daughter's name was Tammy. I got the name of Tammy. I went seen the movie Tammy, and Merle and I went and seen it. And I said, if you have a girl, we're gonna name her Tammy. And that's how my first daughter was named Tammy. It was many years later that my second daughter was born, and her name was Terry. And she grew up. She went to school when she became of age to go to school, she went to a private school by the name of Promised Land Academy. It was strictly all private schools then, and that's where Terry went to school. And Tammy went to public school, but Terry graduated from private school. Then she went to college. Went to LSU, majored in education, became a kindergarten teacher, and was a good one. And Tammy, she didn't go to college. She just went to work. And she got married. She had 2 kids, a boy and a girl. She had a girl and a boy. and they all live in Plaquemine, St. Bernard. Terry's, she got married. She married a boy from Gretna. They met in college at LSU, and they were married, and they had 2 girls. Their names is Jessica and Elizabeth. And now Jessica's in college, and Elizabeth is a senior in high school, getting ready to go to college. It's just unbelievable how time passes. So all I gotta say, I got a good family. A lot. I help them out a lot. They've come twice.
Mama's
My
name.
mother's name was Gladys Hingle Ansardi. She was a real warm, loving person. She was almost a saint. That's how good she was, and she always was good to people, and she treated me and my brother so good. She would do without. Her and my daddy both would do without for us to have. And she really, evidently, she read us right, because we turned out pretty good. And it's on account of her. She seen that we were stayed out of trouble and was always concerned about us, and did all she could for us, and still done for us after I was even married. And the biggest blow to her is when my brother passed away. She always told me that that's the worst thing can happen when you lose a kid. And it hurt her and my dad. Like it devastated them. They never got over my brother's death. And they always, they used to tell me all the time how much it hurt. When my brother, when I found out he had terminal cancer and he never had long, I had to go tell him, and that was the worst thing I ever done in my life. To go tell him that Jerry he had terminal cancer. He called me on the phone and told me, and then he said, "Go over there and tell Mom and Dad." I was living in a house right here. Right behind here, that piece of land I got, that's where I lived. And I walked across and told him it was terrible. That I'll never forget. And it was like being with him before he died and all. It was so, it hurt me so bad. I didn't know what to tell him anymore. But we'd talk and everything, and he knew he was going to die, and he told me, he said, Donald, I ain't afraid to die. He said, but look what I got to leave. I got to leave a lot back. And that's what but he died brave. And he was prepared. He's in a good place. Ain't no doubt in my mind. I hope I'll see him again. Him and my brother, him and my dad and my mother and all them. The whole family, I always pray that one day we'll all be together again. That's all you can hope for. And I believe I will. Because we got a hereafter. When I first got married, after Merle and I were married, we came down here, walked in the house, and I had Merle with me. And I said, Mama, Merle and I got married. I can't believe it. Y'all married. And, she was shocked. Said, okay, y'all married. Said, okay, y'all, they got a bedroom in the front there, y'all stay in there. So we stayed there quite a while, and few years, till I got on my feet. Then I moved in a little house right next door, where that boat's being built right now. And I moved there. But Mama, she liked Merle. She got along with her, and she taught a lot of stuff about cooking and different things. And Merle went to work. She had a good job. She went to work for the parish, for the government, parish government. And she became secretary of the council. She worked under Leander Perez, she worked under Shalon Perez, and she worked under Luke Petrovich, all these political leaders. She worked under Leander Perez. She worked at his house. She was with him wherever she needed to go. And she worked 31 years and retired. Now, I'm 79 years old, and she's telling me I can't retire. I got to keep going. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Oh, man.
So we have the annual moving of the houseboat for Mr. Donald out to the marsh, where it will reside for the next 60 to 90 days. It's 2 days before duck season 2015, November 5th. And Mike Farizzo and Clinton Mellarine have got hooked up to the houseboat. Mr. Donald's going up the road to go to work, and I'm in charge of undoing this rope down here at this end of the canal that's holding back the lilies that they spent a whole lot of money getting rid of. So I got no idea what's going to happen when I start trying to move this rope that's entangled in 6 million pounds of lilies. But I got to do it in time to get out of the way of that coming down the canal, because there ain't no stopping that. We'll see how it goes. So I got the rope out of the way. Right now the lilies can go in if they want to, but got to get the houseboat out. Waiting on the houseboat. Here it comes. Clinton Mellarine at the helm. Can he make the maneuver? What a shot. There goes duck camp, headed for the marsh. Mike Farizzo bringing up the rear. Rope secured back. Let in a few lilies, couldn't be helped. Minimal damage. So they're out the canal. Now they've repositioned the boats, one on each side in the back corners. Tied the boats off to the sides. And they're just going to push it down there. Slash drag it. Slash kind of steer it. Mr. Donald has joined the procession, pushing with the airboat. Going up Orange Bayou, almost there.
Back in the 1940s, across this strip of land, which we call a hog bayou, we had 5 camps. My family, most of my grandfather and my dad, he had 5 camps set up there. It's sort of like a small village, and the people spent more time out here in the winter than they spent at home. When New Year's would come about, they wouldn't even go in for New Year's. They'd have a party out here at these camps. They'd shoot shotguns to bring in the New Year's, and they had a lot of wine, a lot of whiskey, and mostly whiskey and wine. And they were making a lot of money trapping muskrat for it, and they thought they were in heaven.
Out here in the middle of nowhere, where we like to be, and way back over there, off in the distance, civilization.
Where we don't like to be.
Where we don't like to be. I don't know if you can see the mosquitoes right there in front of this camera, but everything you see buzzing around right there, there's 1 or 2.
Million.
That's the lights of Delacroix Island over there.
Mr. Malera had the problem there, but the taxes came due on the land, and Mr. Malera actually never had the money all together to pay the taxes. So they gave Mr. Malera so much time to come up with the tax money. So he went to all the people that he could get with, that tried to help. This people sold their jewelry and everything to help him get the money to pay for the taxes. And they gave him so much time to come up with the money at the courthouse at Pearl Ash. And everybody was there. A lot of people were there, Delacroix Island, people from Plaquemine. So they had the sheriff's name was Sheriff Daughtry. He was there waiting for Mr. Malera to come up with the tax money to bring it. So what Leander Perez done, he sent a gentleman there with a note telling the sheriff to go ahead with the sale before Mr. Malera came. And when Mr. Malera, when the gentleman handed the note to the sheriff, our father was watching him. And he said, we're going to go on with the sale. My father told the sheriff, he said, you're not selling anything. And he grabbed the papers out of his hand and he tore the papers up. And when he tore the papers up, the sheriff turned to my grandfather, which his name was Adam Ansardi. He said, Adam, look what your son just did. He said, Sheriff, he saved your life. If you'd have tried to double cross Mr. Malera and try to sell that land, you'd have been a dead man. You'd have died here today. So my grandfather told my dad and my uncle, my grandfather's brother, his Uncle Johnny, he said, escort this gentleman back to his car and don't harm him, don't hurt him. Put him in his car and tell him to go back to New Orleans where he belongs. So my uncle, his name was Johnny, he kicked the guy in the ass. He said, I had to do something, Adam. Adam was my Uncle Johnny's brother. He said, Adam, I had to do something. He kicked him in the ass. And then it was saved. Mr. Malera came with the tax money and everything was the way it should be. They had a lot of bootlegging going on with my family and Mr. Malera. And they had this colored boy that lived in Davant. His name was, they called him Footsie Narcisse. He was watching, people would watch the whiskey that the hijackers wouldn't take it. So they had these hijackers that came to hijack and steal the whiskey. And this colored boy, they told him, they said, we're gonna take this whiskey. He said, okay, you're gonna take the whiskey. He said, don't hurt me. He helped them load the whiskey. And after he helped them load the whiskey, they said, we're gonna kill you. And he knelt down and pleaded for them not to kill him. He had his hands up, and the buckshot hit his, when they shot him with buckshot, they hit his hands and all. He was bleeding. There were two guys that killed him. One was named Joe Monroe, and they had one named Cucamaco, which was related to tobacco. And he had borrowed Two's double barrel. The two was out in the marsh and he borrowed his double barrel and he shot him with the Two's double barrel. And they tried to implicate the two Miracle with killing Footsie Narcisse, but it wasn't the two. It was innocent. He wouldn't even think of killing anybody, but they killed that boy for nothing. Good guy. And what they did when they shot him, they cut his stomach and everything and threw him, making him sink in the water, you know. But he came floating up, and these two guys went to prison. When I was 4 or 5 years old, I'd come out here with my dad and my grandfather. And my grandfather and my dad always told me about this old Spanishman that lived by himself on Oak River, which is now what we call Cow and Crow. He had a palmetto camp, and he just lived off the land. He never had no electricity. He just had a wood boiler for heat, and he ate everything that came out of the marsh and the water. He ate the fish, the shrimp, the crabs, the ducks, the prairie hens, everything that was eatable. That was his diet. And he lived a real rough, hard life. He chewed moss for tobacco. When he couldn't get tobacco, he chewed moss. So my father would check on him once in a while. He'd go to his place, and his name, they called him Tobacco. His last name was Macco, but they called him Tutu. That was a nickname. His real name was Clement Macco. So my father would look up, stop and check on him, and one time he came there to check on him, and he was very sick. He'd get some kind of spell, and nobody could figure what he would get. But my father told me, he said, "Tutu, you need to get out of this kind of, the way you living. You need to come to my camps." So Dad packed up his stuff and helped him pack up and brought him to the camps on Hog Bayou, here, right where we are today. Well, he finally talked to two mackerel to come to our camps that's on Hog Bayou. So he packed everything up, helped him get all his stuff, and he lived year-round at the camps on this Hog Bayou. He would, one day my father came out to check on him because he stayed out here year-round. He had cooked a coon. And he told my dad, he said, "Hey, I cooked a coon, you want some? It's good." So my dad, he opened the pot, and the coon, he cooked the coon with the head and everything on it. And the coon's teeth was grinning at it. He said, "No, Tutu, I don't think I want it." So he stayed here and he trapped, and he was a hunter. He was a good duck hunter. He hunted ducks and he trapped muskrats. And everywhere he went, he had what they call a dugout pirogue. He called that dugout pirogue. So after he stayed at this camp for a few years, my dad had told me, he said, "Tutu, it's time for you to come in to where we live." So he moved, and my grandfather, my dad, fixed him a place to stay where I live today. He lived there. And he trapped muskrat in the winter and hunted ducks. And he did gardening with my grandfather. They grew sweet potatoes. They had a garden. And he just lived off on the property. And he was a real good carver. He carved decoys. He was the best whittler I ever seen. He'd whittle little paddles, little pirogues. He just had a lot of talent. For a man that never had education, he was brilliant when it came to it. He would make his own razor. He'd take an old file and make a razor out of it and sharpen it where you could shave with it. He shaved with that homemade razor. And he would sharpen a hatchet or a knife. You could actually shave with the hatchet. That's how great he was with sharpening tools. And then he decided he was going to carve a dugout on the river Batchen where I live. He went out there and he found a cypress log and he carved that dugout. And I have the dugout today, still have it. And it was a heavy duck, it was heavy, but when you paddle it, like when the wind was blowing hard, it would outperform a regular pirogue because the way it was built and it had the weight, it maneuvered pretty good. So he stayed with my grandfather for years and years. Then he became very sick. And one day I came home and I seen a horse in the yard and he had passed away. And it was a great loss to all of us. I remember my father cried and wept. And my father held him in his arms before he died. And he said, "Hood, I couldn't do enough to repay you what you done for me." He said, "I'll never forget you." And he died in my dad's arms. And it was a great loss to the family because he was just like family to us. He'd sit down at the table at my grandfather's house, where I live today. And he had a big beard, and he had blue eyes. All you could see was the blue eyes. And he'd sit at the table and eat. And everybody, all the ladies were kind of afraid of him, but he wasn't bad. But then he shaved his beard, and he used to he kept himself clean, shaved, clean, got a haircut, and he was quiet. He was a legend. One time I remember my mother took behind me and chewed me out for something that I did wrong, and I never forget the words he told my mother. He said, my mother's name was Gladys. And he said, Gladys, you touch that boy, I'll whip your ass. She said, come here, I'm going to give it to you too. I'll whip you too. And he was something. And he used to whittle all these little pirogues and boats and paddles for me and my brother. We'd sit down and watch him do all that, and he'd give it to us. It was quite. What's that? Oh, them voices.
That sound.
There's something. You better grab hold of it. Hello.
I'm a whistleblower myself.
Take care of it. You can go ahead how to do that. It's hard. Let me tell you, I did it. I can't remember when I started duck calling. I don't remember ever blowing for my mouth. I never did. It just came
Natural.
It just came natural. That I remember. That was it. And I started with that old. Well, I was told that they took me to blind at 3 years old, but I don't remember that. But as it went on, I remember when I was like 5, I used to go in a blind with my dad and my grandfather.
So that was 74 years ago.
So I was about 5.
Okay.
Then I started remembering they put me in a blind, put me in a pirogue and paddle. It was all pirogues. You know, you never had no boats.
Right.
I mean, you had a boat to get out there, but the duck hunting was all pirogue. You wouldn't think of having a motorized boat to go in a duck hunt. You was history. You was gone. And I remember right at daylight, before daylight, you could hear the ducks passing, flock on top of flock over your head. And all the ducks, they would get out of the duck ponds and they'd go into the lakes, Spanish Lake and Grand Lake. They'd jump them up, you'd paddle in there, they would jump up. And actually, when they were passing over you, water was falling off them. You could feel the water falling off the ducks, and that's the facts. And they'd go into the lakes, and then they'd come back. And it was unbelievable. And they would shoot. And they'd go around the pond after to pick them up. I'd pick them up, grab them, drug up with ducks. They had so many ducks. Pintails, mallards. That's mostly what they shot. That's it. And they shot. They had a widgeon, they call them zazas. They had a few of them, but no grays at all. They never had much grays. Grays didn't happen until late on in time. It was all pintails, mallards, spoonbills, and teals. That was the concentration. It was unbelievable. Okay? They had so many. But the marsh was different. You never had all these big open water. It was all potholes. Ducks had to come in. You know, now they light everywhere. It's messed up. They ain't had no such thing as outboard moons. You know, the hunters never had outboard moons. Air cool engines. They had what they call a Clinton. Air cool. It was all air cool. Brigham, Stratton, Wisconsin. Little 6 horsepower, 7 horsepower motors. Then they had one motor, they call it a Fairbanks. Fairbanks Marsh. It was an old iron motor with a big flywheel, and they had the middle, you put water in it. You put water in the middle of it to keep it cool. And they would do about 3 miles an hour, I guess. But you wouldn't go in the pond with that. You had to stop and then paddle in the ponds with the pirogues. Then you hunt out the pirogues. With my grandfather, my daddy, and Sebastian Ansardi and them, my tongue was hanging out trying to keep up with them because they could paddle. They knew how to stroke the paddle. You see, when I first started, I'd paddle on this side and go paddle on that side. But now, after they taught me, you just paddle on one side. And when you paddle, you twist your wrist, and that guides the pirogue. You know, you don't have to go on the other side, you stay on one side. You're killing yourself, boom, 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 and then going over. You don't have to do that if you know how to paddle. We had some made out of cypress, some made out of redwood. The best one was the redwood. It was lighter, but it was softwood, you know. When we go out with the pirogues, my grandfather built pirogues. I lost them in a hurricane. I had some nice pirogues. You had to put in the bottom of the pirogue, they'd make you put that 5 feet in grass. You had to put grass in your pirogue. It kept the bottom from chewing up, from walking in it and all that. Plus, it was comfortable. We'd kneel down to shoot. And you'd kneel on that grass. Yeah, they had a bench. The bench in the front of the pirogue was narrow. And the one in the back which you sat on was wide. It was made different. And when you go in the blind, you'd go head in with the little bench in the blind, and you'd turn around and shoot by the big bench. But kneel on the floor. They put the shells on the bench. That's how you hunt. Never made blinds for the pirogue. Never hunt out the Never. Always in the pirogue. When I was about in the 7th grade, I was really hooked on duck hunting real bad. So the days it was nice, you know, cold fronts and all, I'd write a note. I'd write my own note and give it to the teacher. Donald could be excused. So the teacher said, "You need to go see the principal. These notes don't look right." So they sent me to the principal. "Donald, you wrote that note." I said, "Ain't no way I wrote it. My mama wrote that note." "Prof, you're lying. You wrote it. Get out of here. Bring me a pair of ducks." I go on the highway and hitchhike. Go home and take off going. I had a little donkey boat, a little air cool engine. And I'd go on, a little air cool engine, a little air cool boat, a little skiff with a 7.5 horsepower motor. And I'd go out. Sometimes I'd paddle. I wouldn't go far, I'd go right back out of here. just paddle. But I missed a lot of days in school. Some days I didn't even go when it was good weather. I just went hunting. Went duck hunting. I wasn't worried about school.
What were you doing to all those ducks?
Selling.
Who'd you sell them to?
Anybody want to buy?
I understand.
We had customers. Me and this old man, Sebastian, we used to hunt together. He market hunted with my grandfather. And then my grandfather died, then he was my dad. Then he started, I'd take him with me. I was younger than him. He was a good hunter. And we'd kill the ducks. He had customers. Excuse me. They had a guy at Brownsville, an ice cream man. He had ice cream, he delivered ice cream. He bought a lot of I guess he was reselling in New Orleans. So, $2 a pair, $3, $1.50. Depends on the dog. Malice, pintails, $3. She tells I don't know if I ever told you this. She said, she told my mother, she said, I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do with Don. He's in the marsh all the time. So, Mama said, sit down, girl, I want to tell you something. But Don said, when Don was a kid, a baby, they took him in the duck hunt. They brainwashed him in the duck hunt. That's his life. And she said, I'll tell you what, the best thing for you to do. If you can't tolerate this, you can leave it. And there's two things you can do. You can either leave it or you can put up with it and live with it, because you'll never change. So she's still here, but that's the way it was. You know, when I'd go like I do now. I'm going. See you later. Of course, you got to be a good woman to put up with all that. In a good day, some duck season, you just never had any ducks.
All season.
All season, bad.
Like this year.
It was like in the Dust Bowl years. They got pretty scarce. You know, they just didn't have them. And even the following year was full. That's how it was. They go in cycles. Well, now, I don't know well, now you got so many duck owners. You got triple the duck owners here. More than that. You never had many duck owners. There was just the local, they had certain people that was hunters and that was it. Everybody went crazy about duck hunting. You know, they got duck hunters, they got people that would never duck hunt. And they had, but as time passed, it became more and more popular. Delacroix started leasing duck ponds like it was probably in the 70s. They wouldn't lease, Mr. Malera wouldn't lease them. Just let his friends on them. Because they had oil wells, you know. They didn't need that. He didn't lease anything. Then when the oil depleted, they had to do it. But like now, that's one of the sources of revenue. Duck leases. That's why Mike Benz tells me, be nice to the duck owners, because we need them. So
Right.
nice to the duck owners. It was all local owners. Very few. Ken, I'd go out, sometimes I wouldn't even see a boat. You never had nobody. You did shots. but it was very scattered. Like, but boats, you break down out there, you're in trouble. You wouldn't see that. They never had no outboard motors and all that. The sport fishermen paid the locals to take them fishing. They never had no outboard motors. They didn't start with that. And the first outboard motor they came out with a piece of junk. They call them Sears and rollback. You go out and you roll back. First Brown and automatic came from Sears. My grandfather bought it for me. $60 or $70. $60 or $70, something like that. That was the Cadillac of guns. They must have started this, the malice must probably started disappearing like in 50s.
Really?
56, 57. But they still had it. You know, I'd kill maybe 25, 30 a season. Even 10 years ago, 15 years ago. But now, can't kill one. That post you asked me about, Ken, that was a post that my friend, my best friend, and I were trapping out here. We were camping out here. We never had a camp. We had a little makeshift houseboat, a little rabbit box kind of houseboat. We stayed on it and we set that pile in there. He set the pile in there to skin some nutrients. Because when we was trapping muskrat, we'd catch nutrients, and they were worth a little money. So it didn't pay to throw them away, so we skinned them. And this friend of mine, he trapped with me a couple of years. We were very close. And then he had a tragedy in his life. He got thrown out of his boat and he drowned. And we was out here getting ready to trap another trapping season. That happened in the 70s. And it was a great loss. It was a good person, and I lost a good friend. It goes to show you what happens. You can be happy, you can have everything the world by the tail, but it can all end so fast.
You had one every car in town.
I had a lot of cars. Just didn't keep them long.
It's always a new fancy one though.
I don't keep them trucks anymore. Just get, what the hell, you just want to live while you're living. You got
That's
one
right.
shot there. That's it.
That's right.
When it's over, it's over. What you doing? You filming me, boy? With the hiccups?
It's all right.
I don't want to move on.
You don't want no more?
Well, it's that I got this hernia, man.
Okay.
If it wouldn't be for that, I could drink some wine. But sometimes you do things and you wonder how it's all going to turn out. But it turns out. I guess it turns out I'm still here.
That's right.
Still married. That's a miracle.
Mama, did you jump up?
What? I guess the good Lord's been looking down at me.
So I asked my
What you think, bro?
I think so.
That's it.
I asked my great grandma when I was about 10 years old. I said, "You've seen a lot." She said she was 103. She said she'd seen everything from a covered wagon to an ice box to a telephone to a cell phone and a microwave.
That's what you used to call an ice box.
Right.
They ain't called that a refrigerator. It was an ice box. Ice.
That's all they
Ice box.
That's the
Is
only
that
thing
right, Rose? Ice
I
box.
think. I don't know.
Ice box. Yeah. The Italian. That's how they said it.
I asked her one thing. I said, "What's the one thing? If you were going to tell me one thing I needed to learn, one thing I should know that of everything you learned, you told me you only live once. You going to tell me the same thing? You only live once, huh?
That's right. You better believe it. You better get all you can out of it. Because when it's over, it's over.
No, you told me that.
That's it.
You told me that.
But you know, it's not over. It ain't over till it's over.
That's the truth.
That's it.
What?
It's all what you make of it.
That's right.
You can make it good or you can make it bad. The thing I respect the most is only one man you gotta respect. The man that's put you here. And
Amen.
that's keeping you here, and that's not gonna take you from here till he's ready.
That's right.
And that's God. Or Jesus, whatever, you know. So I think if you believe in God and believe in Jesus, and you treat your fellow man decent, I don't think you can go wrong. You gotta have a reward for somewhere.
Yeah, that's
You
right.
gotta have a reward.
I believe that.
I think that's what it's all about. Again?
Amen.